In a region known as the Caucasus, a name given to a region in Eastern Europe and Western Asia, there is a country called Armenia. This small country is situated between Azerbaijan and Turkey, bordered to the north by Georgia and to the south by Iran. Its area covers only 30,000 square kilometers, housing a population of approximately 3 million inhabitants. A large part of Armenia's current population works abroad, sending money to support their families in their home country. Due to its restricted geography, commercial activities are quite limited, and remittances sent by citizens abroad play a significant role in the country's economy. Additionally, due to political issues with Turkey to the west and Azerbaijan to the east, establishing commercial partnerships with these two countries is a challenge. Without direct access to the sea, Armenia's trade mainly occurs overland through Georgia and Iran, or relies on air transportation to meet the country's needs. Commercial activities with other countries are generally coordinated through its capital, Yerevan, which is also the most visited site and one of the most developed cities in Armenia. Besides Yerevan, Armenia is mainly composed of small rural areas with little hustle and bustle. Summarizing the history of Armenia, the country was annexed by Bolshevik Russia and incorporated into the Soviet Union along with Georgia and Azerbaijan, forming the Transcaucasian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic in 1922. Under Soviet rule, Armenians experienced a period of relative stability but also faced political repression, including persecution of the church during Stalin's regime. With the death of the communist dictator in 1953, there was relief among the population, and life in Soviet Armenia improved with the restoration of the church and the construction of a memorial to the victims of the Armenian genocide in 1967. In 1991, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, Armenia regained its independence but faced economic difficulties and armed conflict with Azerbaijan. The economic blockade imposed by Azerbaijan and Turkey exacerbated the country's economic problems. Being an active seismic zone, the region was devastated by an earthquake in 1988, resulting in the loss of 23,000 lives. Today, the Armenian people lead a life with a certain degree of dependency. In Yerevan, the atmosphere is not particularly cheerful or happy, reflecting concerns and a sense of tension, especially among adult men who seem more stressed compared to women. On the other hand, women are notably elegant and well-presented, demonstrating a higher vitality than men. They enjoy leisurely walks, relax in cafes, take photos in squares, and dress stylishly. It is important to note that some of the people you meet in Armenia may have temporarily moved to the country after events in Russia and Ukraine. So not everyone on the streets is necessarily Armenian citizens. Especially when observing the faces of some women, it is possible to identify Slavic features indicating they came from Russia. It is said that Armenian men, especially after the wave of migration from Russia, have a special preference for Russian and Ukrainian women and are influenced by them. Armenians predominantly communicate in their native language, Armenian, but Russian and English are also widely used in everyday conversations. Furthermore, the genetic composition of the Armenian people exhibits more typical characteristics of the Caucasus than of Slavic races. Generally, people from the Caucasus are characterized by dark hair and brown skin, a characteristic shared with other countries in the region, such as Georgia and Azerbaijan. Men often have dark hair and unkempt black beards, while women have dark hair and tan skin. The population you encounter in the streets encompasses a variety of groups, including office workers, students, and retirees. When Armenians engage in business, they are more likely to seek opportunities in Russia and European countries, as Armenia has a limited market and offers limited employment opportunities for ordinary people. In this aspect, young people are often seen sitting on the streets, and occasionally you may observe married couples reflecting the patriarchal structure of Armenian families where the man is traditionally considered the head of the family and has the final say. Armenian women, although they may initially be active in the job market, generally focus on their families and husbands after the birth of children. Having children is of great importance to the Armenian people, especially considering the country's small population, which revolves around 3 million inhabitants. It is crucial for them to increase their numbers to ensure the future of the nation. It is worth noting that out of the 3 million inhabitants, about 1.6 million are women, while approximately 1.4 million are men, resulting in a difference of about 200,000 more women than men in the country. With the migration of young men to other European countries, Armenians face the challenge of maintaining and increasing their population in their own country. As for Armenian men, it is important to mention that they also show great enthusiasm for betting on sports competitions. People here seek opportunities to make money easily, recognizing that entering the local job market is not a guarantee of wealth. In the streets of the capital, Yerevan, cleanliness is noticeable, and a variety of vehicles travel, covering various budgets. However, when it comes to main streets, something peculiar catches the eye. Pedestrians often cross the street without paying much attention to traffic lights, opting to do so when it is convenient for them, regardless of the light being red. it seems that there is no strict penalty system to deter them from doing so. A significant challenge in Yerevan, especially in the summer months, is the extremely dry and scorching climate with little humidity. There are fountains in Yerevan where tourists often drink water and take photos as souvenirs. The city has a well-developed metro system, allowing residents to move around the city easily. Near metro stations and busy areas, you can find second-hand bookstores and antique shops from the Soviet era, as well as tangible artifacts. Yerevan houses many statues and architectural elements dating back to the Soviet Union era. Many buildings in the city center that are still in use are over 30 years old and carry the characteristics of that era. Squares in the capital, especially on weekends, are filled with activities, and people enjoy spending their time in parks and cafes. Cafe-goers are friendly and helpful, striving to offer great service and not hesitating to pose for photos. However, it is important to avoid political discussions with locals, as Armenia faces continuous internal and external political turmoil, which can lead to conflicts between people. Regarding foreign policy, Armenians maintain a cold stance towards Azerbaijan and Turkey and tend to be reserved with citizens of these countries, even when they are tourists. On the other hand, if you greet someone, regardless of age, you are likely to receive a smile in return, a friendly conversation, or a wave if they are in a vehicle. Republic Square is the center of social life in Yerevan, being the place where most events in the country are held and presented to the public. In the city, old white minibuses are widely used for public transportation. Another notable aspect of Yerevan is the policemen who patrol the city in uniforms, reminiscent of military uniforms, maintaining public order and ensuring the well-being of citizens. Additionally, the population occasionally holds protests and demonstrations against the government, so the police maintain constant surveillance to prevent possible riots, maintaining public order. One of the major deficiencies in Yerevan is related to families with children. Curiously, the city lacks adequate recreational areas where children can play and have fun comfortably. If you visit the city with your children, you will not find dedicated spaces for them, and children often end up playing on the streets, requiring constant supervision. Although the average number of children per family in Armenia is about 2, the absence of investment in children's leisure spaces in the capital is discouraging. Upon reaching the highest points of the capital, you are greeted by a spectacular view of mountains, and those familiar with geography will identify the silhouette of Mount Ararat in Turkey. The mountain silhouette is clearly visible from Yerevan, highlighting the country's proximity to Turkey. When observing the city from above, it is evident that it is not excessively large, with a limited number of modern tall buildings. For those who rent a house in the city, it is important to keep in mind that comfort and luxury are generally limited. Most available houses consist of villas or apartments that may need renovations. Buildings often have discrete colors on their facades. The average monthly rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in Yerevan is about $500, a value considered high by the local population. Regarding vehicles, most people drive old Mercedes cars and Russian models. Those in better financial situations can acquire newer German cars. Due to the almost total dependence on imports in virtually all sectors and limited local production, life in Armenia is challenging. A family of 4 needs a minimum monthly income of $1,000 to survive, although it is possible to survive with less, often resulting in deprivation. Additionally, it is common to see elderly people in the city engaged in work even at an advanced age when they should be enjoying their retirement. Currently, the currency used in Armenia is the Armenian dram, and the minimum monthly wage in the country is approximately 75,000 Armenian drams, which is equivalent to only $180 according to international sources. The average monthly income of an individual varies between $300 and $400, placing Armenia not only below the European, Arab, and American averages, but also below many Balkan countries. This reflects the extremely low wages in the country, which lead people, including the elderly, to continue working to survive. One of the highlights in Armenian production is the wine sector, and the country's inhabitants have great confidence in the quality of locally produced wines. You can taste and evaluate these wines in the country's luxury restaurants. However, when venturing outside the capital and exploring rural areas of Armenia, you gradually move away from modern life and find a more traditional environment. In Armenia, vast stretches of land remain untouched, maintaining their simplicity over generations. Although some small villages have settled in these areas, the majestic mountains remain unchanged for thousands of years. However, in rural regions, both the infrastructure of buildings and the layout of roads make life even more challenging for Armenians. It is not only the roads and buildings. The car models used frequently are at least 2 decades old. The main reason why foreign visitors often venture out of Yerevan is to contemplate the elevated, mountainous, and arid landscapes of Armenia. Despite the country's small size, Armenia offers vast open spaces. The views of the mountains often have a relaxing and peaceful effect on tourists. Additionally, visitors enjoy observing the daily lives of people in villages. For example, women in villages engage in baking lavash bread, opening the dough and baking it in an underground oven. Unlike the city, families in the villages often collaborate with neighbors to perform daily tasks. For example, when baking bread, neighbors gather to prepare it collectively for all the families in the community. Houses in villages are generally unpainted, and the bricks and stones used in construction are visible on the external facades. One of the most charming aspects of life in the rural areas of Armenia is that people not only bake their own bread, but also grow their fruits and vegetables naturally on their own trees and plantations. Village residents lead a simpler and more natural life, consuming the bread and products they produce. They often engage in animal husbandry or agriculture, ensuring their subsistence even if income is limited, and they never face food shortages. Armenia, in general, is a country worth visiting, but it offers few attractive opportunities for permanent living. Internal and external political issues weaken the country, making it challenging to achieve the comforts of modern life. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, leave your like and your comment. See you in the next video.